Welcome to the Ku-ring-gai Local Planning Panel meeting. On behalf of the panel, I'd like to recognise the traditional custodians of the land, the Ku-ring-gai people on whose land we meet today. In line with social distancing requirements to limit the spread of the COVID-19 virus, Ku-ring-gai Local Planning Panel meetings may be held using conferencing technology until further notice. Today's meeting will be conducted over Zoom. Any person speaking at a local planning panel meeting are advised that their voice and personal information, including name and address, will be recorded as part of the meeting and made publicly available on Council's website via live stream and on-demand access, except any part of the meeting that is held in closed session. Accordingly, you must ensure that your address to the panel is respectful and that you use appropriate language and refrain from making any defamatory statements or discriminatory comments. Ku-ring-gai Council does not accept any liability for statements, comments or actions taken by individuals during a meeting of Ku-ring-gai Local Planning Panel. People connecting to this meeting by conferencing technology are reminded that under the Local Government Act 1993, the recording of meetings by a member of the public using any electronic recording device, including a mobile phone or video camera, is not permitted. Any person found recording without the permission of Council may be expelled from the meeting. And some points to note: on-demand viewing of each Ku-ring-gai Local Planning Panel meeting will be available until the holding of the subsequent meeting, and recordings of these meetings are copyright protected and cannot be reused or reproduced without approval from Council. There are no apologies received for today's meeting, so I'll just move on to introducing the panel today. I'm Cara Crayson, I'm the chairperson for today's panel meeting, and we have two expert panel members, Gerard Teresi and Sandra Robinson, and the community panel member is Elaine Maliki. We've received no declarations of interest, but I'll just ask panel members verbally, are there any further declarations of interest to be made?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And for staff, I just ask the staff if there are any declarations of interest to be made. No, I take that as a no.
No, Madam Chair, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. So we now move on to the speakers. Normally we provide 3 minutes for each speaker to be heard, and that occurs in the following order: objectors, legal representatives, and then the applicant. We only have, however, 2 registered speakers for today's meeting. One being Andrew Minto, the applicant's town planner, and Richard Shear, the owner of the site. So I'll call on those 2 speakers, and the coordinator will start the timer, and panel members may ask questions of each speaker after they've closed their address. So Andrew, I'll just call on you first. If you could again just state your name and address, and then when you're ready.
Yep, so Andrew Minto, I'm consultant town planner on behalf of the applicant. Madam Chair, panel members, look, essentially I don't have any particular comments to make other than to advise that we're satisfied with the draft conditions of consent. We believe all relevant issues have been appropriately dealt with within the officer report, and otherwise we're available for question.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. And I'll just ask if Richard, the same question, would you like to give an address or a presentation, or are you just also here just to answer questions?
Thank you for your time. I'm also here just to answer the questions. I don't have any objections about the recommendations.
Okay, great, thank you. So I'll open it up then to the panel members. Does anybody have any questions?
No, thank you.
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, I have a question. Then if my fellow panel members don't have any, I do note throughout the assessment and the various sets of plans that there have been some adjoining neighbours that have raised some concerns with the latent greens along the perimeter of the site. And I understand in your current version, you're proposing to remove some latent greens, but not all of them. And I also note that the adjoining property owners, there's different responses. So there's a request for the latent greens to be removed by one neighbour, and then there is a request for the latent greens to be retained but pruned from another neighbour. I understand that council at this stage has supported your current proposal, which is to retain this particular stand of latent greens, and that it could be dealt with at a future DA stage when a design for the dwelling is proposed. I just wondered if you had any clarification or response in terms of what your proposal may be in relation to that, or at least if you have any proposal to reach out to the adjoining property owners to discuss pruning or their particular needs in relation to this as part of the future design of the dwelling.
Well, Madam Chair, from my perspective, certainly the removal or retention of the removal of the latent greens is not something that's been that I've discussed with the property owner. Obviously, they don't need to be removed as part of this application. Richard, I mean, do you have any particular idea in terms of what you want to do long term with those latent greens? Is there something that you're wanting to retain, or are you happy? Are you planning to remove them? Are you happy to trim them? Is there anything you can provide to the panel?
I don't have any plans at the moment. As stated, it doesn't impact the development proposal. So at the moment, I haven't got any plans.
So I guess, Madam Chair, in a way, we're sort of in council's hands. I mean, we're not. I don't think there are particular species that we're wedded to in terms of their retention. I mean, obviously they provide some some visual screening at the moment. Thing, but I'm obviously well aware of what council's attitude is to latent greens and the like. So we're sort of, if council wants to impose a particular condition about how they're to be managed, then we'll probably be accepting of that.
I mean, I think what we're obviously understanding that this is a subdivision application at the moment, but it does include removal of some trees. I think the difficulty with those trees is that they do provide great screening, but they are, they can be quite invasive and they do need to be managed. And I think probably the suggestion I would have is for the next stage post subdivision to actually reach out to the adjoining property owners, because you have people in the same development, some wanting to retain and some wanting to remove for the removal. So I think it would probably just be wise as you move to the design phase to consult with your neighbours on what the best course of action may be in relation to those that both affords privacy and appropriate management at the same time.
Yep, no, that's noted. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know. Sorry?
Madam Chair, I just got
Agreed.
I've got a quick question. Just in terms of the conditions, so you did say you've reviewed the conditions and you're aware of the conditions of approval which are attached, and you're happy with those conditions?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Well, if nobody has any further questions, I'd just like to close this public part of the meeting. So members of the gallery and speakers, I'd like to thank you for your comments. I now will close the meeting and the panel will retire to deliberate on the item today. The decision will be posted on Council's website within 48 hours of the close of the deliberation meeting. So thank you everyone and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.